Hi everyone, trying a new format today, so sticking strictly to the market stuff. I think I'm going to do separate videos for the news and individual stocks going forward. So for this, we'll just touch on the normal data and the charts. And then we'll look at my results for the day and my thoughts going into next week. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day that the markets are open as well as Sundays, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So looking at fear and greed, we are back up to 72 after dipping down to 66 on the previous read. You can see we had two big pin bars down all the way to that 61 range. Now we're back into these pretty overbought conditions. I kind of thought we were going to see more of a dip like this with a pretty consistent down move back towards neutral, but we have not gotten that yet. Back into extreme greed. Strength, not in greed. Breadth, still not in greed. Put call ratio, definitely in greed. And then volatility pulled back to neutral. And then safe haven demand back into extreme greed, along with junk bond demand. Overall, still super overbought, but you still have to respect the price action. Markets continue higher. Moving over to seasonality just for a moment, you can see we were expecting bullishness on the NASDAQ, more sideways price action on the S&Ps and arguably down on the Dow. You can see the black dots and the purple dots heading lower. That's the Russell 1000. And then the Russell 2000 is supposed to be a slight dip in here and then looking for a rally towards the end of the month. So that's what we're looking at right now, either sideways or up with outperformance from the NASDAQ and the Russell. Moving over to the calendars, existing home sales came in much lower than expected. Pretty interesting. We're definitely seeing a weakening demand in home sales. Inflation numbers, however, did come in pretty good. So 1 year 2.9 down from 3.1, and then 5 year 2.8, which is still honestly pretty high relative to the 2% that we're expecting to see. And then consumer expectations and consumer sentiment from Michigan University way higher than expectations. And I think this is part of what drove markets even higher during the mid-session. The consumer just continues to remain very strong. Moving over to Max Pain, absolutely blew out all of the options, finished way above the top of the puts, way above all of the biggest call walls. Total options 5.6 million, put call ratio 1.7. None of this really mattered here today, surprisingly so, with how many options there were in the markets, but everything just went up like a rocket ship. Very bullish close on Max Pain, and you have to respect that going into next week's session. Moving over to the charts, starting off with the S&Ps, you can see we just continued this rally from yesterday's session. The close was very strong. We talked about it, expected that to continue, and sure enough, we did. I did not expect it to be quite that strong, and also my chart pattern here is now invalid, so we'll go ahead and delete that. This definitely looks more like an ascending wedge at this point with this higher low and that island reversal. We talked about it looking a little bit bullish in the shorter time frames. The NASDAQ looked more bullish than the SPY, but everything was super bullish on the day. Rallied basically throughout the session. After a short dip in the pre-market, covering some of those pre-market gains back down to trend support, took out my next level, rallied all the way up to 482.75. And you also have to recognize this is a new all-time high here for the SPY. This was the level that I added here today. The previous level was that 479.30 level right at these wick highs. Broke out well above all of that. Almost overbought conditions once again here on the weekly chart. Not quite there, but new level added and everything looks super bullish. Bullish momentum on the week as well, which does look bullish going into next week. Moving over to the NASDAQ, similar thesis. Rallied pre-market, pulled back early in the session, rallied up, added a new level here up at basically 422. This has been all-time highs here for the NASDAQ for a bit now, and once again continuing higher, volume ramping up, momentum ramping up, everything continues to look super bullish. Yesterday's session was strong, continued here, and we'll look at the longer term charts on the weekend video. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, similarly here, both of these rallied up today. The Russell was not nearly as strong, so it did rally after hours yesterday, pre-market today, touched that first level at 191.82, almost to the penny, and then pulled back almost to these previous lows, did not touch my support line, and then started to rally, broke out, hit the 144, and now it's holding there. Still looks bullish, not nearly as much. This is the hourly chart, and you can see we're still below the 144 and the 200. Let's look at it on the daily just for a moment. Just below that 9 EMA. You got VWAP in 21 above that. It is worth noting that momentum is ticking bullish and volume was really strong on that up move. So this could be a turning point. Definitely interesting. Dipped low, touched that support, wicked low, rallied, wicked low, rallied. So structurally, still bearish on the longer time frames, bullish on the shorter ones. Dow, same thesis, rallied up super aggressively, breaking out once again. This is another new all-time high here for the Dow on a closing basis. Let's go ahead and add a level at that wick at 379.35. Moving over to Apple and Tesla. Apple continues to break higher. They got some news on a bullish upgrade on the stock, gapped through that trend, rallied through the level. Now we're back to this previous wick low here from 27 December. Looks clean. Next level up around 194. Momentum bullish. Everything looks good there. And then looking at Tesla, did get a new wick low, but it is holding this trend that we put in yesterday. This goes back to 31 December, and then we added it here on yesterday's lows. Seems like it's holding. We also talked about how it was oversold conditions. Momentum did tick back towards bullish on the daily chart. If Tesla starts to find some legs along with everything else, that could absolutely be colossal for markets. Tesla kind of has been the laggard of the Mag 7. You can see this big down move versus everything else. But if this starts to turn around and Tesla starts to gain momentum, the NASDAQ and probably the S&Ps are going to be going much, much higher in a pretty short amount of time, in my opinion. Moving over to AMD and NVIDIA, these continue to rocket higher every single day. Semiconductors are the new hotness. They've been the new hotness for a while, but they are on a run and they are taking the NASDAQ much, much higher in a short amount of time. From low to high, AMD about 7%. Similarly here on NVIDIA, about 4%. So everything rallying aggressively in the semi space. Moving over to staples and discretionaries. Staples pulled back a little bit more, still holding that 21 EMA. Interesting. But in terms of momentum, still bearish momentum. RSI continues to roll lower. If it closes below that 21, that's going to be quite bearish. These wicks have been about to that same level in that 71 area. Does not look great. It's definitely not making new highs. Yesterday, we talked about how discretionaries did establish a slightly higher low from this previous low, and then we rallied off of that. So we broke through the 21 yesterday, held above it, tested it here today. That's one of my favorite setups. Touched that EMA, rallied up through, continues to look quite bullish. Next level for me, 200 SMA sitting at 176. And then let's drop that out to the daily chart. Just barely got above my 174.76 level. And then you got VWAP and 21 EMA sitting at 176.49. Moving over to breadth, we got another follow through on breadth. We talked about yesterday's bullish move, continued here, hit the 9 EMA. Interesting. We start to see maybe a dip down, higher low, or a double bottom. That could be interesting. Doesn't always work that way, but it does occasionally. You can see these two previous ones where we dipped low, got a couple days rally, dipped a little bit lower, and then got the continuation higher. Similarly here, low, slightly lower low, then continuation higher. You can see double bottom here. Fairly often you do see it on the 20-day average. This is your initial push. Wait for that dip low. Might happen. Just something to pay attention to over the next couple days. And then looking at the 50-day average, not super bullish. Got back up to that 55 EMA. If it breaks here, you got the 9 sitting at 79.94, right at my level at 77.46. And then that 83 level sitting just ahead of that 21 EMA. That's really where I would expect this to end up. And then we'll see what happens from there. Moving over to the dollar. Dollar sold off here today. Continues to throw wicks to this upside. Sold off. We're not quite below the low from Thursday, but it is selling off and you would expect it to go lower at this point. My next support is down at that 103 area. Also got the hourly 144 EMA sitting in that same range along with trend. And then looking at the daily chart, you can see red candle, momentum rolling over. If the dollar starts to pull back, that could be bullish for markets. Right now, it's still in an uptrend, so it doesn't have very much room to go to the downside until it finds some support, but it is something to watch. If that trend line breaks, you got the 21 sitting all the way down at 102.25. Moving over to bonds, J&K rallied up again, momentum ticking towards bullish, looks okay. Still in a consolidation. In fact, I want to add some trend lines here. does seem like we're kind of wedging up a little bit, waiting for some clear direction. So you got a higher low and a lower high from these previous wicks. So waiting for some clear direction. Right now it is bullish, heading towards that upper resistance, which is bullish for markets. And then we got TLT holding at that 55 EMA and 144 EMAs. Talked about that being an area of support on the daily chart yesterday. Does seem to be finding a little bit of a bounce from there, which could be an area of resistance for the 10-year. We'll look at yields on the Sunday video. Moving over to volatility, both of these cratered as you would expect. Markets rocketed higher, VIX gapped lower, did throw a wick to the upside, and then broke even lower below these trends. Still got the 21 EMA and the 9 EMA holding in this 1330 area, but momentum rolling over, RSI breaking down below the SMA and below the 50 line. Everything says this is probably headed lower. 1275 is my next support, and then you have this mid support down at 1235. So right now this looks weak. This is still looking like a rising kind of structure, but in the short term looks bearish. And we haven't really established a higher low yet on the VIX. These two previous lows were more of a double bottom, even with higher highs on each of these moves higher. Moving over to my accounts, obviously I was bullish going into the session. I said yesterday that everything looked powerful and I expected it to continue. I also rolled out in time and up in strike on my Q's positions, and all of those worked out here today. So IWM still holding. My max profit there is 194 for 2 weeks from now, which does give me lots of time to be able to roll out in space if I need to. So I'll be watching that one closely over the next week. Still okay. You can see I have an open profit on the share as well as the call position, which is good in both cases. Plenty of protection, plenty of upside potential. And then my Q's positions, I rolled these out in time once again and up in strike. And even with that move, you can see I'm still in the red on those positions. So crazy, crazy rally. My max profit on these positions is now up around 425 up to 426. And with the rally we saw today, that's only about 4 points from here. So crazy move there. And you can see those credits all the way up in the $20 and $22 range. So if you do the math, that puts this one right around 425 and this one around 426 for almost 2 months from now. A lot can happen in 2 months. We'll see how it plays out, but that does give me even more room to the upside. And I was able to absorb a lot of that rally, taking advantage of it. And then looking at my TQQs, those all worked out. I did roll out my covered call out to $53 for $1.28. And I'm already above that max profit at $54.54. So we'll hold that one. We'll see what happens. I also sold a put at $52 for 50 cents to try to profit there a little bit also. Did okay. You can see my open profit on the day was $217, so that's pretty good. And then looking at my XLE position, this will expire in a week, just sitting on it, trying to get rid of it. Maybe if XLE rallies aggressively next week, it'll give me some opportunity to make $1 on it or something just to get rid of it. It's all the way up at $92 and I only paid $3 for it. So not a big deal. Might expire worthless, no issues. And then moving over to my profit and loss graph, you can see I am out to 57 days from now, which is a very, very long time. That is further than I typically like to go, but this rally has been relentless and you do have to play what you're given. So my max profit is $11,000 at expiration with my 400 shares over that price range. And my break even is all the way down at 376 now. So continuing to play this. If we go much higher from here, I'm not sure exactly what I'll do. Might have to eat some losses to give myself a little bit more opportunity in the short term, but we'll see. Not sure exactly. And this is where I'm at right now with just a little bit of upside left into that 425, 426 range. And I have to wait 2 months for that. Let me know down in the comment section if you like the new format. It's a little bit more straight to the point and straight to the charts. I will still be covering the other news and stuff that I had been covering just in a separate video. Otherwise, if you got any value out of this video, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.